Welcome to my first ride of the Pivot Switchblade. I'm pretty stoked on this. Pivot did send me this bike and I'm so stoked about this. This is a new chapter of my YouTube channel I'm super stoked about. I have another manufacturer that sent me a bike as well, and we'll be doing reviews on them and a bunch of others. So pretty stoked about that. So stay tuned. Really soon I'm going to be coming out with a series of 6 different trail bikes, and I think it's going to be pretty rad. So keep an eye out in May. It should be coming out middle to end of May. So keep an eye out for that. Sidetrack, whatever, we're good. Anyways, let's get back to this bike. This is the first ride impression, so this is just me going out and riding my first time, talking about it. I'm gonna do some. We're gonna switch over to some clips of me riding here shortly, and just a real quick short clip on climbing, and then descending, and all of that, and then get back in the garage and talk about it some more. So pretty dang stoked, and I've got my nice little cup here with me too. So let's get into it. All right, real quick, this bike climbs super well. It's very supportive. It has that DW link, which is amazing, and it's kind of weird. It just feels like you're just sitting on a couch climbing, and it's the position I think that it's in. I've tried not to look too much at the geometry and just go ride this bike before the first ride. So I'm wondering if it might be because the seat tube is pretty slack for an angle. I have no idea, but it's super comfortable. It does feel a little long. This is a size medium. I believe it's a 455 to 460 reach, and it's in the low setting for geometry adjustment. So gonna do more talking about the climbing back in the garage. So let's get to the downhill and have some fun. All right, here we go. First run down on the Switchblade, and this is on the flow trail. I do want to say, oh, it's super poppy. That it has a DHF on it, so I do not like DHFs, so I'm gonna be taking a little bit easy to get used to that. But I'll be, after first couple of rides, I'll probably swap over to a DHR2 or ask the guy. But whoa, this bike is so flush. Woo, that's crazy. Super, it just is like butter. Well, I know this trail is smooth and it's a flow trail, but it is soaking up these little bumps that are on it like nothing. Wow, that is pretty impressive. Maybe one of the best feeling jumping bikes initially that I've ever rode, and that's not what I was expecting from this. These grips also, I know that's a weird thing to talk about, but man, these grips are super nice. Most of the time with grips, I just plan on taking them off right away and putting on the ones I like, but these actually are really nice. So props to Pivot for a really nice grip. But yeah, and a super comfortable ride. But let's get back to the top and do some more descending. All right, it is a little windy right now, but great weather still. So first run down, whoo, shake and bake. The wind got me a little bit right there, but yeah, this bike is super comfy. It kind of has like a different feeling when you're going down than climbing. Climbing, it has like this Cadillac feel, and then on the way down, like, it still has that, but it doesn't feel as long. It feels like it shortens up and just does become a little playful, but so planted. Yeah, gosh, this is so good. So smooth. Man, this is pretty impressive for this bike. This is 142 in the back, 160 in the front. Woo! Got a little huckabuck right there. And yeah, this thing is pretty dang impressive. They just did a bunch of work, it looks like here, so yep. But yeah, this is a pretty impressive bike so far. I am not used to how soft feeling this bike is. I have it all, it's all set up to Pivot's recommendations, but I am not used to this softness, but it's pretty nice. It's just like you're riding on air. Pretty rad. All right, so in between, I did 4 runs total. In between the halfway through, I came back to my car, swapped the suspension settings a tiny bit, made it a little bit firmer. Pivot does have a super cool sag indicator deal on their rear shock, which is really nice. It was within that, but I just made it kind of on the upper end of that, if that makes sense. But and then I put like 3 psi more in the fork. Not much, but that still made quite a bit of difference on the trail. So let's get back into that footage and go to the little bit firmer settings and see how that does. All right, here we go, back down shake and bake. I just actually added a little bit of air to the suspension just to see what it feels like. It's definitely not as plush, but it feels a little more composed. So I personally like the more composed feel, so that's what I'm going to be going with. But yeah, still super plush. And down that little drop right there, it's just super comfortable, predictable. Yeah, so feels good. I think I'm gonna stick with these pressures and stuff, but that can change. But anyways, this bike, another thing is it is so dang quiet. One of the most quiet bikes I've ever rode, and I think that comes down to Pivot's quality. They have, it just seems like some really good quality. Like the fit and finish on this bike is really nice. Very similar to Yeti, I'd say, and it is really nice, super quiet. The chainstay is super, like the protector on it is pretty dang rad. I was checking that out. Also, this build is the XO axis transmission build, and I mean the SRAM Eagle transmission is absolutely amazing. So compliments this bike a lot. Also, with it being quiet, that helps the whole bike stay quiet again. And this thing is just like whisper quiet. It's pretty rad. You hear the dirt and tires. But let's get back up, do one more lap. All right, here we go. Run 2 down Flow Trail. This is with a little bit stiffer suspension, and so far, once again, I'm liking it a little bit better. Maybe it was just a little too soft for me at the beginning. So pretty dang rad bike. I'm really enjoying this. This bike, I just feel like is so comfy, and I think that it'll be comfy for pretty much anyone just to get on and cruise and have a really good time on. So I'm super stoked to get some more time in on this bike and really like get a better feel for all the stuff about it. Climbing is solid, stoked on that. Might not be super fast, but it is solid. And the descent, it's just, you're just having a great time. Once again, I'm not sure if you're going super fast. I'm not paying attention to any times or anything, but man, it is just a blast to ride. So pretty stoked about that. It wheelie's pretty good. I was practicing in my alley last night with this bike, and it is rad. So that wraps up our time out here at Eagle. All right, I wanted to see if you could even hear the shifting while climbing. This is a moderate grade, not that steep, but still, like I just shifted, not a sound. Let's shift back down. Oh, a little bit, but man, it's crazy. I'm just pedaling and pedaling pretty hard, pretty good pressure, and just nothing. Shifted up, no sound. Shifted up again, no sound. It's kind of weird getting used to, because like you expect a noise when you shift, so you kind of second guess it, and then all of a sudden it's easier. Oh, there's some noises, but yeah, let's end this out. All right, so this bike is pretty dang rad. I really enjoyed getting out and riding it today. A couple things. Let's talk about climbing first. Climbing was super comfortable. Like right away when I started climbing up my first climb, it felt different. Like it felt like I was just seated into the bike, not like on top of the bike, and it was a weird feeling at first. Like I didn't understand what was going on. It felt like I was just sitting like on almost like a cruiser bike or something, and it was good and bad, I'd say at first, and then it just turned to be all good. I don't know if it was because I have not looked at the geometry numbers. I'm going to be looking at all those in a future video. I tried not to look at all that stuff. I'm not sure if the bottom bracket is pretty low. It is in the low position, so I don't know where that puts it. And it just kind of seated me back into the bike. But it was, after about 5 minutes of climbing, it got super comfortable, and I just felt like I was just like riding up the mountain on a couch or something. It was pretty dang interesting, and I haven't really had that feeling except for on a rocky mountain. I've had that feeling close to it, but not quite as much. Super comfortable though. It just, I don't know how else to say it besides like a comfortable Cadillac, just cruising up the hill. I will say it felt very, very efficient, but it was, I don't know if it was the fastest climbing bike. It didn't seem like it was, but it also didn't seem slow, but it just felt like I might have been taking a little bit longer. I wasn't pushing crazy hard or anything, but just something to think about. I don't know if you're really worried about climbing fast in this 140 to 150 travel range. Not sure if it's going to be the fastest, but it's going to be one of the most comfortable, if not the most comfortable, that I personally have rode, and I've rode quite a bit of this travel range of bikes. So other than that, super efficient, very comfortable climbing bike, something that you just could ride all day on, which I think that's kind of where Pivot was going with this bike, I'm assuming. But let's switch over to the downhills. Right away, so I did 2 runs with the suspension a little bit softer, 2 runs with the suspension a little bit stiffer, and it was just so comfortable. When it was a little bit softer on this sag ring, it was just kind of like on the lower portion of it, I would say. It was just very comfortable, soaking through everything. Literally didn't feel a bump on the trail. I got a little weird on some of the higher speed rock sections. I think I even mentioned something in the video about that. But still super comfortable. And then I stiffened it up a little bit, not a crazy amount, still within that sag setting window, but the O-ring was just a tiny bit above where that little indicator line is. Like the top of the O-ring, I think the O-ring fits perfectly in the middle of it. So it's just tiny, like the top of the O-ring was just barely above that. and it was super comfortable after that. I think climbing, it got a little bit more peppy going up the climbs and was pretty, it felt like it kind of livened up a little bit on the climbs, and it did feel a little faster, so that was nice. And then on the downhills right away, I just felt a lot more composure, and just I was just going through the turns and the rocks and everything. It just felt like it wasn't just cloud-like, you know, just like soaking through everything, but it was like I could feel it, and I like to feel the bike a little bit more than maybe most people. I'm not sure, but that's just my opinion, maybe. But other than that, super cool bike. I am so stoked to keep riding this thing more. I don't know if I mentioned it. In the low position, this head tube angle is 66.0 degree. In the high position, it's 66.5 degrees. So it is a pretty moderate geometry on this head tube. So most bikes in this travel range these days are 64.5, I'd say, is pretty average now. At 65, kind of at the steeper portion. So that was one of the geometry things that I definitely knew. I knew that just before. I just kind of knew that in my head about this bike, so that wasn't going to leave. But all the other ones, I've watched a lot of stuff on this bike before and researched it and all that, but I tried to, in the last month or two leading up to knowing about getting this bike, I tried to put all that stuff aside, so my first ride was just getting out there and riding the bike, not knowing the geometry. I didn't know the head tube angle, but other than that, I tried to just not pay attention to it. I knew the reach was within my range. I think it's 455 or 460. You can definitely check that out on their website. Once again, I'm still trying to not blur what I want to think about this bike. So, yeah, overall, super stoked, and there's going to be some cool videos coming out with this bike and some other bikes in it as well. And with that, I mean, if you like this video, like and subscribe for more, and get out and ride.